Hardwin, Clementina, and Florence Elizabeth Maude. Five Princes Garden from 1861. This photo would be presented under the realism module. This photo was created still in the very early stages of photography. My eye immediately gets drawn into the irregular shape of the photograph. It's more of a non-symmetrical trapezoid rather than a square or a rectangle we normally see. The reason behind the shape of this work and many other shape prints of hers was because many of the photographs were pasted into albums as gifts by Hardwin. Many of the tears and cuts you see were from removing the pasted images from albums, but I think it's such a prominent trait when seeing Hardwin's images that it becomes part of her style, even if not intending it. During the time of taking this, and many other ones, Hardwin's made subjects were children posing for the camera in a setting that becomes very familiar throughout her other works. In this image, the standing figure holding or drawing the curtain is her daughter, Florence Elizabeth Maude, and the one sitting down is her other daughter, Clementina Maude. They are posed in a way that seems like Florence Elizabeth is either unveiling Clementina for you to see or covering her up and closing her off to the public eye once again. Which one it is, I'm unsure. What makes this photograph so intriguing is the double print, which is called a stereograph, a medium which uses two images at slightly different angles back to back to give the image depth. When viewed through a stereoscope, it makes the subjects pop, almost like a 3D movie. Clementina Hardwin was pushing boundaries as an early photographer, with most things more experimental than other photographers at the time. Even though most of her photos contain similar subjects and setting, Hardwin still finds a way to make each photograph individually unique by having alterations to clothing, lighting, story, composition, and even how the photograph is viewed by the public. The work I will compare this to is David Octavius Hill and Robert Adamson, New Haven Fishwives, created in 1845, and it is a salted paper print from a caliotype negative. It stands at 29.5 by 21.7 centimeters. The biggest difference, other than the types of developing, is how the photographers capture their subjects in different lighting. Clementina and Florence Elizabeth Maude capture it with all natural light engulfing the frame, while New Haven Fishwife captures the subject sitting in what looks like a shaded side of a building. They both have two female subjects, but Clementina and Florence Elizabeth Maude is posed, while New Haven Fishwives looks to be more candid. They also differ in how they are presented, one with a standalone print which is hard to reproduce, while the other presented as a stereograph to give the print depth. Next, we take a look at Man Ray's photograph of Noosh Ullard. This photo was made on a gelatin silver plate in 1935 during the Surrealism movement. Gelatin was a popular process in photography at the time because it was the first process that submerged exposed pieces of paper into a chemical bath rather than relying on sunlight in its process, making this process easier for development at any time. This photograph tells more than a beautiful woman holding a mirror, because it's the poet's Paul Allard's second wife, Noosh Ullard. Paul was a surrealist poet who dedicated many poems to Noosh because of the inspiration he found with her. A lot of the artists at the time used their lovers as inspiration for their works, making them a key part of the surrealist movement, even though they were only subjects of the work. As my eyes wander this photograph, one of the first things I notice is the mirror. Looking at the reflection of Noosh, it seems to look like a different expression than the one non-reflected. One expression looks like she's dotting a person, possibly Paul Allard, while the other looks hurt and emotionless, almost like she's putting on a mask for the audience, and the mirror is revealing her true identity. Next, I look to how the hands are delicately holding the mirror. It seems so weightless due to the posture of her hands, but it also looks as if she's putting in a lot of effort into holding it up from what looks like to be a weight around her wrist. It creates a contrast between the weightless and the weight that is lingering. Like in many other works, Man Ray is showing us two sides of the fence, using mirrors and exaggerating features such as Noosh's face in this photograph. I will go ahead and compare this work to Gordon Parks' Off on My Own, a photograph that depicts the hardships in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance. While Man Ray exaggerates the facial features on Noosh's face, Gordon Parks takes away those features entirely. They both convey emotion very well, with Man Ray's emotion on both faces and Gordon Parks' silhouette of a man in a dingy alley. Moving on, we now take a look at Utagawa Kunisada's Visiting Komachi, or Kaio Komachi. A woodblock print, which is famous for the medium in the Edo period, which uses separate carved pieces of wood for each color in the print. This work was in the series Modern Beauties as the 7 Komachi, and it stands at 36.5 by 25.5 centimeters, which is about the size of a smaller poster. This story really catches my attention because it is the ancient legend being portrayed by an actress for a theater performance. The legend goes, General Fukukasa, a man who sought to make Kaio Komachi, known for her beauty and talent, his lover. Komachi tested how dedicated he was by having him spend 100 nights outside her door through all types of weather. He stayed out there every night, marking the past nights with a notch on Komachi's carriage shaft. On the last night, he perished with a harsh winter storm on the 99th night. This block print portrays a reenactment of the legend with an actress with a theater. In the top left corner, you can see a framed image of the real Komachi with the poem above her head that reads, "It is by their changing colors that we know the flowers of men's hearts to fade in this transient world," in one interpretation of it. This image in the top left corner makes us ask the question, is it an image inside of an image, or is it a framed picture on a wall-like surface behind the actress? The story of this work makes the expression on the actress's face even more morbid, almost like she is pondering about General Fukukasa. But since she's an actress, maybe she's thinking about the real Komachi. The colors in this piece also play an important part to the story, since it is a block print and the colors are picked very carefully. So oftentimes parts of the print with the same colors indicate that objects are connected somehow. You can see this in the green of the carriage with the actress's kimono. It also connects to the real Komachi's kimono as well. A lot of this work lets the interpretation up to the viewer about how she is feeling and what the poem that floats around the real Komachi's head is to the actress. The work I will choose to compare this to is Kadoshika's Hokusai's Woodcutter, which is an ink and color on silk painting, made in 1849. Both Visiting Komachi and Woodcutter share a trait of being a floating world painting. It also shares a sort of mystery behind the characters. They both leave many questions the audience has unanswered, such as what are they thinking about? Why are they what appears to be content, as seen in the woodcutter, or what is the actress feeling sorrow for, as seen in Visiting Komachi? They share a similar sense of showing the audience emotion. They differ in mediums, with one being a block print and the other being an ink painting. But the thing that I notice that is the different sides of spectrums of emotion. The woodcutter is almost cheerful and content with his well-being, while Visiting Komachi shows us deep sorrow and mourning. We now move on to Paul Signac's painting of Morning Calm, which stands at 65.7 by 81.6 centimeters. It was a part of the Neo-Impressionist period, created in 1891, and can be found in the Impressionism module in our class. Neo-Impressionism was a movement that took colors and themes, but they focused on the theory and division of color and vision, breaking down subjects to a more simplified form but focused on colors of the subjects. Signac focused on the colors by capturing setting in different times. Morning Calm is paired with the painting Evening Calm. These two paintings were captured in the French coastal town of Conakry, one in the morning haze and one in the golden hours of evening. This work can be found in the Modernism module in our class. Signac captures the temperature of these paintings perfectly, and Morning Calm, an orangish white haze that lingers the sky that has that summertime kind of warmth, while Evening Calm shows us an orangish blue that gives us a cool summer night feeling that we all know. Oil on canvas was the best way to capture this image because it gives us the perfect temperature and gives us sort of the waxy look that Signac loves to capture. The painting showcases us sailboats floating around the harbor. The sailboats shrinking into the vast sea gives us a great sense of depth. The sailboats alone lack certain detail, but the colors are prominent, a little bit faded with distance, but still shows a wide variety of different colors. Signac brings us color to the sea that is mostly known for being a monochrome on surface level. The work I will compare this to is Monet's Gare Saint-Lazare, created in 1877 and stands at 75 by 104 centimeters. Both of the paintings use colors to capture the temperature and environment, but they differ on the sides of weather. Morning Calm is warmer and looks like you can feel a summer breeze, while Gare Saint-Lazare feels more cold and you can feel the grime of the city creeping into the station. They both lack detail. Gare Saint-Lazare more than Morning Calm, but they both have that waxy feel. Their biggest difference is that they use different spectrums of colors to show us different scenes. Orange for Morning Calm and blue for Gare Saint-Lazare. They both also show us busy places, such as with Morning Calm, a harbor at sea, and Gare Saint-Lazare, a busy train station in the city. Next, we take a look at a very interesting painting. We are now looking at Marcel Duchamp's Nude Descending a Staircase No. 2. Created in 1912 on oil and canvas, and it stands at 151.8 by 93.3 centimeters. In 1913, Duchamp sent this painting to America, and it quickly became a talked about notion. He quickly drew the attention from Americans who are not familiar with the European art scene. In the exhibition named The Armory Show, an exhibition created by an association of American painters and sculptors that traveled across the country with exhibitions. This painting was showcased among American painters, and it was totally revolutionary for the time of American art. Duchamp depicts a nude person, most likely a woman, because most nudes at the time were of female figures, descending down a staircase in a very abstract form. The stairs start at the top left and top right and descend down to the bottom right. The figure is shown in every micromovement mashed together to create geometric shapes that followed the Cubism style. Duchamp chose to use earth tones and matte colors to show the geometric shapes he created. This was a very common practice during the Cubism period. At the time, this was very groundbreaking to American art because most female forms were romanticized, showing us figures of beauty in an institutional art sort of manner, while Duchamp created a figure that was indecipherable. An alien organism created by all the micro movements of one individual. Female figures were already being abstracted by such artists as Picasso and Monet, but this work was so important because it brought a lot of cubism and abstract ideas to America. Marcel came to America 2 years after this painting was exhibited, and his reputation as a painter in America was already prominent before he even stepped foot in the States. The work I will compare this to will be Marcel Duchamp's Fountain. I understand they are both the same artist, but it's interesting to look at his future work in comparison to his earlier piece. with one being an abstract figure going against the institution's way of idealizing the body, while the other is a ready-made object that challenges us in what art is in itself. In both works, Marcel took away the majority of colors to showcase the object structure. With nude descending down a staircase, he exaggerated the form of the subject by multiplying the subject into an explosion of geometric shapes, while the fountain showed us a form we are familiar with, in this case a urinal, but with a new perception at looking at the object. Even though they are both by the same artist, you can see many differences, mainly in the media and the work. You can see similarities on how Duchamp went against institutions with his subjects, and showing us that art can be conjoined as a living organism or even a factory-made urinal. I believe these works should be added to the course because each one of them pushes art to a new level and really makes us think about the work. I chose to add works from all different mediums because art is any medium you can think of. Each of these artists were not afraid to experiment, and it shows. While others followed the movement, they put their own twist onto the movement itself. To be an artist that has the ability to change people's perception on how to look at yours and other people's art differently should be enough reason in itself. With the selection of many movements and medias, they are all pushing the boundaries of art.